Claws of salvation. They say every era has its own apocalypse. For our grandfathers, it was war. For their fathers, famine. For us, the end of the world came with a thunder that split the sky above Reactor 4. An accident, a simple, mundane word that masked the total collapse of civilization. The world we knew crumbled like an old photograph. The country choked in chaos, and the government, in a final desperate attempt to retain power, declared martial law. Borders snapped shut, roads were blocked by checkpoints, and we were trapped in a cage. The zones around the epicenter became the symbols of a new era. Dead, contaminated lands erased from maps and memory. But nature abhors a vacuum, and a vacuum poisoned by radiation breeds monsters. Soon, the rumors began, whispers in water lines, fragments of phrases in underground markets. They spoke of something in the forests bordering the zone, something unknown to biology. Some claimed it was the victims of mutation, unfortunate animals twisted by an invisible poison. Others, lowering their voices, swore it was an ancient evil, long asleep beneath the earth, awakened by the reactor's roar. In this slowly dying world, two friends, Mike and Logan, decided they had enough. Their goal was simple and impossible at once: reach the border, break through the cordons, and find freedom before it was too late. Their only chance lay through an old, deep forest, wild, untouched, bypassing patrols and death on the roads. They chose life, or what they thought was life.
Mike, let's take a break. I can't go on.
Logan, his voice more steady but tired.
Just a little further, Mike. We need to get as far from that clearing as possible. Did you see the tracks? Fresh. Army boots. I saw everything. And don't you smell that? Like something died. Something big.
It was the third day of their journey. The forest grew denser, darker, more hostile with every step. Ancient pines closed overhead, barely letting sunlight through. The air reeked of rot and damp earth. But the most frightening thing was the silence. No birdsong, no insect chirps, no rustle of small creatures. Only their own breath and the dull, nervous crackling in the bushes that made them flinch. By evening, when shadows grew long and cold, they reached a small clearing sheltered from the wind. A perfect place to camp.
There. We'll warm up soon. Grab the cans. Tomorrow, if we're lucky, we'll hit the river. From there, it's a short walk to the old road.
Still believe in luck, huh? After everything that's happened? What else is there to believe in, Mike? Patrols? A dosimeter that clicks louder every hour? I believe we'll make it out. Sit in some rundown tavern beyond the border, order a beer, and laugh at all this. Sounds nice. They lit a small, almost smokeless fire, pitched two worn tents, relics of a past peaceful life. The exhaustion from 3 days of desperate escape weighed them down. Logan, finishing his meal, fell asleep almost instantly. Mike sat by the fire, listening to the night until his eyelids grew heavy. But that night brought not rest. It brought primal terror. It started with a howl, low, drawn out, full of sorrow and rage, so deep it froze the blood. The trembling, unnatural notes echoed through the darkness. It wasn't a wolf's howl, and not a human's.
Mike, wake up. Did you hear that?
Then came the movement,
Not just twigs snapping, but heavy, deliberate steps of something massive behind the trees surrounding the clearing. Mike and Logan burst from their tents, instinctively pressing close to the dying fire. And then they saw them. First, the eyes. Dozens of red lights glowing in the dark, watching them from behind the trunks. They didn't blink, just stared. And then their owners stepped into the dim firelight. Oh my God. They were huge, twisted. Their shapes resembled wolves, but only as cruel parodies. Their limbs, unnaturally long and thin, moved in jerks, as if their joints lacked bones. Instead of paws, enormous claws that gouged deep ruts in the damp earth with every step. Their skin was gray, stretched tight over protruding ribs. But their faces were the worst. Elongated, lined with needle-like teeth, and eyes burning with hungry, intelligent fire.
Don't come closer. Nobody, don't provoke them. Logan, I remembered. Remember what we took for the cliffs, claws, in our backpacks. What claws? Mike, they're about to... For climbing, metal ones. We can climb a tree. Hurry.
You think that'll work? It's better than waiting here. Go. In a panic, they dumped the contents of their backpacks on the ground, finding the precious bundles. Climbing claws, 4 metal grips with sharp spikes for hands and boots. Their hands trembled as they fastened them hastily. The creatures, seeing their commotion, began to close the circle. Their low growls turned into furious hissing.
I'm ready. That tree, the tall one.
They dashed to an ancient pine and started climbing. Metal claws dug into bark. Fingers slipped. Below, a deafening howl erupted. One of the creatures leapt with incredible force, its claws slicing the air inches from Logan's boot.
Faster, Logan, faster!
With a desperate surge, they reached the first thick branch, then higher and higher, until they were dizzyingly high, where the canopy thinned. Up here, silence reigned, broken only by their ragged breathing. Below them, hell unfolded. All through that endless night, the creatures circled the tree. They tore the tents and backpacks to shreds, venting their fury. They howled at the cold, indifferent moon. From time to time, one would try to leap or climb the trunk, but would fall, leaving deep gouges. They didn't leave. They remained under the tree, as if they knew the prey would eventually come down. They waited.
We won't survive. Logan, this is the end. We have no food, no water. They'll wait forever.
Logan didn't say anything. He just sat on the thick branch, leaning against the trunk, staring down at the nightmare circling below. His face in the moonlight looked like a stone mask. Morning came. Pale rays of sunlight broke through the mist, lighting the clearing. Mike, dozing from exhaustion, opened his eyes. Silence. He looked down. The clearing was empty. The creatures were gone. They had left at dawn.
They're gone! Mike, they're gone!
He turned.
Logan?
No answer. The spot beside him was empty. Only one iron climbing claw, once strapped to Logan's hand, was deeply embedded in the tree bark, as if in a final desperate attempt to hold on. And just below on the branch, a dark, almost black stain slowly seeped into the wood. What exactly happened to Mike, no one knows. Did he make it out of that cursed forest, or remain there forever? The story does not say. But the few brave, or mad, souls who still wander the edges of the zone sometimes tell strange tales. They speak of old pines, their trunks marked with deep, vertical scratches, as if someone had once climbed them in desperation. Sometimes, very rarely, in the deepest parts of that forest, a howl can be heard. But it doesn't come from the woods. It sounds from somewhere above, right overhead.